Hey, Parent Nation, welcome back to the show. I am so excited for our next Dad Day guest. His name is Christopher Whalen, and he is a national speaker on parenting and family financial issues, which is awesome because that's one of the big things that we're dealing with right now in Parent Nation is family financial issues, such as chores and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll be able to talk to him about that. And he's also the author of The Foxhole Father, a field guide for fathers, which I've been reading through, and it is just, it's so pointed and at times funny and mostly realistic, and I just absolutely love the book. So, Christopher, hi, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I have been reading through your book, and I love this book. Well, first of all, I can't stand all the wishy-washy parenting advice that's out there right now. That's just who I am. And I love that your book is broken down into segments like, dreams and goals and raising functioning adults from the ground up. And it talks about things that inherently we should know, but we've kind of put on the back burner because, some study somewhere said that might be detrimental to our children.
Right.
So one of the things that you say is that, I'm dealing with two teenagers right now, and, one is on the opening end of teenagerism, and the other one is kind of becoming our friend now. He's at the higher end. But one of the things that you say is that teenagers are like newborns. If you have a teenager, take yourself back to when they were first born and try to remember yourself, how you felt about them then, how you didn't take anything personally. And I absolutely love that. Because I have a lot of questions from Parent Nation dealing with teenagers and how do you deal with their tantrums and how do you deal with their disrespect and how do you deal with all the bad choices that they make. And I love that you tell parents, go back to when they were innocent and you loved them. No.
And you like them.
You like them and you didn't take anything personally.
Exactly.
So, do you have a process that you take parents through? I mean, is this coaching that you do with parents, or is it primarily just with the book?
Well, I definitely have grown into coaching parents. I have a CPA practice. I'm a CPA by trade with my own firm, and that leads me to many family situations, which of course goes from financial and tax advice to parenting advice almost at the same time when I'm in family meetings. So I'm coaching parents through, just to go back to this main issue with teenagers, I try to tell parents that even though a 14-year-old has adult language, that we have to ignore that because we shouldn't create and see them as an adult person. So we have to go back to when they were infants where we had patience, we wanted to guide them, but if they were throwing a tantrum in the crib, we never took that personally. Yet if a 14-year-old is calling you a name, of course you take it personally, and that clouds the entire parenting process. Parents need to eliminate their personal feelings from all parenting almost all the time because it's usually a waste of time and energy. And teaching moments are lost all the time when parents get down to that level of a teenager and they start having personal arguments, and the teaching moments are lost. And that's what I'm saying that all the time. We need to key on the teaching moment for the child and get them and parent them through a situation. Our feelings don't matter.
So I hear what you're saying, and as an emotionally wired, reactionary person,
right.
I find that very hard to see working in my life.
Okay, so do you find yourself engaging in personal arguments or words back and forth, and then you finally can get to the parenting you need to do? So is that what happens? Because that's very common. And then, or even the topic is lost in a smokescreen of a child's tantrum or words, and then nothing gets done for the child.
I see myself as being the person who, as the nurturer in the family, I see myself, because I'm the only female in my house, I can see my husband and my sons kind of segmenting things and saying, I'm not going to take that personally because that doesn't make sense in this space. But as the nurturer and the very, I don't know, hormonal person sometimes in the family, when someone says to me, oh my God, you're the worst mom on the planet, I can't stand you, it's really, really hard to not take that personally as the mama.
I understand, but we need to get past. Even if you can't show your reaction. When my kids said things like that to me, I said that may be true, but you still can't go on a car date with a 21-year-old and you're 15. So I don't care. I said that might be true, and I just got back to it's just a smokescreen because they don't want to deal with the issue. So I just kept bringing it back to the issue at hand. But I never wanted to express. Of course, I get personally upset. Believe me, I raised 3 teenage daughters. I had all the weekend time since 1997. So I understand friction and people attacking me all day. But I rarely showed that it hurt me because that's part of what they want. They want to distract you. So, yes, you can't help the feelings, but you can help expressing them and showing them, because that doesn't add to the parenting. It doesn't help your child. At 15, your child needs to be guided like a 3-year-old. They're going through so many different milestones, just like when they were little, and we have to help them through that. And if you inject your personal feelings into the situation, it doesn't help your child at all, and that's what I'm focused on that with parents when I go and speak to PTA groups. And I think you cannot inject your personal feelings unless it's going to help the situation for them, or else it's a very selfish thing to me. And I have arguments with moms all the time, but then they see my point when we role play things and they see what I'm talking about.
So is that what you would call being a masculine non-judgmental sanctuary? That's a term that you use in your book.
Well, right. The masculine part comes from, I put that as one of my taglines, is because the word masculine has been demonized so much in the past 30 years and bastardized, when being a masculine person, you can filter everything through your masculine emotional and psychological sensibilities and still be an effective parent and have great children. And that's the message I'm trying to give out to men. You don't have to feminize yourself and become womanly in your parenting in order to be effective. A lot of men feel so confused today. I get hundreds of emails now, almost a week it's happening, that men are reading my book and they're saying, oh, I can be a man and be masculine, but I can still be an effective parent. And that's what that means. And also the non-judgmental sanctuary is the most important component of my parenting, and I think should be everyone's most important component. What does that mean? Doesn't mean you don't guide your children, you don't coddle your children, but I never judge or attack my children in any way, never call them a name. Never, like parents will say, what, are you stupid? Or never ever would that come out of my mouth. I'm looking to guide them in a loving, caring way. The moment you start to bully your children and bring that kind of wording, then what I call emotional flinching happens. You want your children to come to you when they're in need. And if you have a child that flinches away from you when they're 10, when they're 17 and they're in crisis, there are parents out there that kids cannot talk to, and that's real child abuse to me. You want your child to come to you whenever they have a real need and see you as a strong sanctuary. So that's the thrust of my book, especially for men. Women are reading it, and women are writing to me saying, I want my husband to be this way. This is one of the best things that have happened. I didn't expect it. I wrote my book for men, would never step over the line of giving mom really any advice in my book. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I'm astounded by the things that you're saying. Because, I've worked with so many kids, particularly boys, of very domineering fathers who believe that they have a masculine way of parenting. And these boys would come in to talk to me and would literally self-censor every word they were saying. I knew immediately that child has never had a conversation with an adult in their home where they weren't called a name or judged or rejected for what they were saying, because they were afraid to have a conversation.
No. And constantly. I see it every day.
Yeah, it's frightening, right? And I think that's what you're talking about when you're saying that you have to become a masculine, non-judgmental sanctuary. You're creating the space. You're creating a strong, safe place for your kids to be free to express themselves and to tell you anything.
Exactly.
That's so vital because, I, as the mom of 2 boys, I want to be able to say, yeah, I'm boy mom. I play football with my kids and I can do all that. I can manage all that. But there are still conversations that my boys need to have with their dad. They can't have them with me.
Exactly.
And their dad needs to be able to provide them with a safe space to open up about those topics and not feel like they're wrong or shamed or blamed.
When I workshop with dads about this exact issue, and so what dads masculine men who usually would never read a parenting book ever. That's the 80% of my market. I'm going for it. But they're very reactionary. They're very caveman-like. They want to get a situation diffused as soon as possible, and that's their DNA. So they sometimes, of course, are abrupt, are cold, are saying, listen, there's always a place for because I said so. But it's very rare when that happens. So I try to teach men, and this is through role-playing also with men, with men's groups, going through situations and teaching them my philosophy of and having them self-observe. A big part of my book, if you read it, is all about self-observation on many levels and many situations. And once I can get men to take themselves out of that front line, very subconscious reaction, caveman reaction, to try to sit back and see what they're doing and self-observe, it changes their life, the way that I teach them to do it. It changes their families, the whole dynamic. And kids have come to me and said, I can't believe this is my father.
That's
what did you
awesome.
do to him? I'm not afraid of him anymore.
And isn't that an amazing statement? Because how many times have you heard, I'm sure a bazillion, I want my children to fear me?
Oh, it's terrible. And a big selling point for my book, people say, why should I buy your book? And you're simply a CPA, and what could you know? And I ask them this question, I'll ask you and your listeners. As a teenager, when something happened to you where you are in trouble or something happened and you were very scared, did the thought of your parents knowing that get you even more frightened? Were your parents an added stress and worry to that situation? If you had that, then you need this book, because that is my parenting dynamic is something for the new times here, the new age. So when I tell parents, they all agree they had that fear. They have an unhealthy fear of their parents, especially when they're at need. And think about that. There are teenagers, 17-year-old girls and boys. Today it's even worse than when I was young, and they cannot go to their parents when they're in their most desperate need. And so this is what my book's for. This is to create the safe haven for these children when they're most desperately at need, not just to go to the movies, but when they're pregnant or they realize that they're homosexual or they're transgender or any serious thing in their life, they need to immediately come to you. So that's what my book is, to give a gift to children, to get parents to understand what they're not giving. What is a non-judgmental sanctuary supposed to be? And what you can have, no matter if you're a new dad, an old dad, a grandfather. This book is for married fathers, coupled fathers. It's for single dads. So that's the main focus of the book, is that's what I want to give children, what I give my children.
I think it's awesome, and I really think it's important, too, to remember, although we are celebrating Dad Day, I think it's important for you to know, too, that when I read your book, it shed a light on a lot of things for me as a mom, too. So, it's written from a very masculine male perspective, and I appreciate that. However, you talked about things like co-ed sleepovers. There are just as many moms that scream into their pillow. And, if their kids would even suggest such a thing, they'd be like, oh, dear God, no. And you make the joke, there were only 3 kids that wound up pregnant from that event. But that's the image that goes through our minds. We're like, holy crap, are you kidding? And you bring a very realistic point of view to that for dads especially, but also for moms. I think it's a great book for couples to read together. And I would really love if some moms who believe that they have to be single moms because the dads are completely incapable of taking care of their kids, I would totally love it if they would read your book too. Because what it did for me was shined a light on dads parent differently.
Right,
and it's not wrong. It's just different.
I wish that moms would understand that dads lack confidence, in parenting. Maybe it's genetic, it's just evolution. So assume that dads, I was raised in a very sexist environment. I never held a baby, and I'm still thinking I'm making mistakes every day. So try to be patient, because you have to understand that the difference between men and women in general is that if you have a masculine guy, understand a caveman's mentality is different than a cave woman's mentality. And so he wants to take care of things quickly, as I said before. So try to remember that. Sometimes when dads are not involved, they get demonized. But try to remember in our lives, if you have a lack of confidence with something very important like a child or something, it might paralyze you. A lot of men get paralyzed thinking they're going to make a mistake with this precious life. So, yes, there are deadbeat dads and deadbeat moms, but everyone needs to be very patient with each other, and I want women to really start to care about men in a sense, be objective, and try to understand, don't be one-dimensional about your reactions. Like I say in my book, don't have an index of acceptable behaviors and say, well, you're not doing this, you're a terrible dad. They don't understand. They don't know. And the past 30 years, men have really been marginalized. Marriage is less so. It's not always because someone wants to be a neglectful person or they're selfish. They just really don't have the confidence to feel they're going to do something correct, and it's really a woman's role to do it better than them. And I see this every day in on my website and in my forums that I have.
Thank you so much, Christopher. And I really hope everybody listens and takes that to heart. And I really want everybody to check out your book, The Foxhole Father, The Field Guide for Fathers. Thank you to both of my guests and to all of you for listening. If you have anything to contribute to the conversation, go to our Facebook page, Parent Nation Radio, and join the conversation. Until next week, everybody, keep playing. We're given and try